So I thought what we might do tonight. Is I'll just tell you the story. Thought what we might do tonight is I'll just tell you the story of what happened in Missouri this past week. So on Monday night, a member of my team came up to me and they said, "Hey, we've heard there was a report that there was some vandalism at a Jewish cemetery in Missouri." Those were all the details that we knew. What we learned very quickly was that Hesed Shalemet Cemetery, which is one of the oldest Jewish cemeteries in the state of Missouri, had suffered a terrible act of vandalism. Actually, 154 headstones that were knocked over and defaced. And we know that this was a significant and serious act. So not only was it 154 headstones, these were large, many of them beautiful headstones that, of course, were there to preserve the blessed memories of so many families, so many Jewish families that had lived in Missouri. We put out a statement that night condemning this act of vandalism, and then I woke up the next morning on Tuesday morning, and we went to Facebook and we put out a post. And we just said that we have an opportunity in the state of Missouri and in the United States of America to together stand up against anti-Semitism. And we have an opportunity to turn what was a vile act of vandalism into an opportunity to demonstrate the strength of the Jewish community and the strength of our faith. And I let everybody know on Tuesday morning that on Wednesday at 3 p.m. I was going to be at the cemetery there with a rake, some tools, and some friends to beautify the cemetery. And I asked my fellow citizens of the state of Missouri to join me. Thank you. Thank you. We also put in that post a small link where our citizens could go and make a donation to the Jewish Federation's campaign to preserve and to beautify that cemetery. After we put up the post, I started calling Jewish leaders throughout St. Louis and around Missouri. We called leaders from the Jewish Federation, leaders from the Jewish Community Center. And every single one of them said, "I will stand with you." And I will call my fellow rabbis, I will call other community leaders, I will call my fellow business partners. I will stand with you. And the word started to spread. And then I called the Archbishop, and he said, "We will stand with you." And I called the leader of the Missouri Baptist Convention, and he said, "We will stand with you." And I called Protestant leaders, and I called the local imam, and I called leaders of all faiths, and I asked them to stand with the Jewish community at this moment. And every one of them said, "We will stand with you." Now, thank you. Thank you. Now, that day on Wednesday, I already had an event planned with Vice President Pence, and it was an event to celebrate the economic turnaround that we're bringing to the state of Missouri. When Vice President Pence arrived on Air Force 2, I welcomed him to the state of Missouri as he came down the steps. And as we were riding to the event together, I just told him about what we were doing. I told him that we at that point were expecting hundreds of volunteers. It turned out to be over 1,000. I told him that at that moment we were on course to raise over $100,000 for the cemetery just from that one call to action. And the Vice President just turned to me and he said, "I'm so pleased to see what you're doing." He said, "Could you use an extra set of hands?" And I said, "Of course, Mr. Vice President, of course we could use an extra set of hands." And I want to tell you, in this Vice President of the United States, you have a man who's able to combine at once tremendous humility with tremendous strength, tremendous conviction and tremendous wisdom with an open and listening ear. And he rode with me to the cemetery. And keep in mind, this was an unplanned event for the Vice President. So we pulled up to the cemetery together. We got out of the car. We walked through the cemetery. We met with the cemetery director, the head of their board of directors. And then we both got in the back of a pickup truck. We climbed into the back of a pickup truck, and we literally took a megaphone and started speaking to the people who were there. And we let them know that this act of desecration was not going to define the Jewish community, that we were not going to cower, that instead we were going to stand up with courage and demonstrate who we were. And as I looked out from the back of that pickup truck, I saw one of my preschool teachers from the Jewish Community Center. As I looked out from the back of that pickup truck, I also saw hundreds of children from Jewish day schools whose principals had let them off of school to come out to join us to do that work. What I saw was a Jewish community coming together in the face of hardship and saying, we're not going to be defined by this hardship. We're going to move through what was painful for so many families, and we're going to be wiser on the other side. We're going to move through suffering, and we're going to be stronger on the other side. We're not going to cower in the face of fear. Instead, we're going to emerge, and we're going to be even more courageous. And thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And we spoke from the back of the pickup truck. Anita Feigenbaum, who was the director of the cemetery, she spoke. She let everybody know how thankful we were. The Vice President of the United States, again, spoke to everyone. And you should know also that the President had called me earlier that day. And the President of the United States said, thank you for what you're doing. He said, and please, he said, tell the people of Missouri that we stand with them in the fight against anti-Semitism. He said, and thank the people of Missouri for showing the world that act of vandalism, that's not who America is, that this, all of us coming together, united to support the Jewish community, that is who America is. And, and the Vice President also shared some words from the back of the truck, and then we both got off the truck. We went to the headstones, which had been vandalized. A rabbi led us in prayer, and then we went to work. We started raking, we started cleaning, and again, we were joined by literally, as you looked out, there were hundreds of volunteers spread throughout this cemetery, all of them working together. And when we came back together, when all the volunteers came back together after this work had been done, you could feel this tremendous sense of power in the crowd. This tremendous sense that these people who had all come together, from different political parties, different ethnic groups, different faith backgrounds, had all come together to stand with the Jewish community. And what I would say to you is what that experience showed me is that when we stand up strongly as Jewish leaders in the United States of America, when we stand up strongly as Jewish leaders in Missouri and in every state, when we stand up and we demonstrate our Jewish values in action, people follow because they know that we have something to offer to this country. And so many people have asked me, they said, look, Eric, you're Jewish. You ran for governor in the state of Missouri. How were you received? And what I let everybody know is that when we were out on the campaign trail, I spoke about my Jewish values. I spoke about my Jewish faith. I talked about how that shaped the course of my life. And the most common reaction that people had in the state of Missouri when I told them that I was Jewish was that they gave me a bear hug. Right? We ended up winning 111 of Missouri's 114 counties. And so I would say to all of you, what I have learned in my experience, what I would share with all of you, is that it is incumbent upon all of us to stand up strongly as proud Republican Jewish leaders, demonstrate what we have to offer to the country, And if there's one thing that I could ask you to do tonight, it is to please continue to support the tremendous work of the RJC. The Republican Jewish Coalition stands up strong for all of us. Thank you so much. God bless you and Shabbat Shalom. Thank you.